So how do people like Kobe Bryant, Tom Brady, Warren Buffett, Yo-Yo Ma consistently perform at such a high level? What if I told you that there's a secret ratio that they all abide by? Today, we're going to talk about that ratio and how you can use it to enhance your own life. So we're going to talk about the ratios. We're going to talk about specific ways that you can use this information to enhance your own life. And at the very end, there'll be a specific strategy that I'll share with you that I think you can take home and immediately start using this to help yourself. So the ratio is part of something called the elite performer cycle. And that elite performer cycle has three different pieces to it. So the very first one is train. And training is where you're on purpose learning something, improving a skill, doing something that's going to enhance your abilities. Okay, so if you're a corporate person, maybe you're reading, maybe you're learning new presentation skills, maybe you're learning interaction skills, those types of things. If you're physically training, that's weightlifting or running or those types of things as well. But there's also mental training, there's psychological training, there's a whole host of things that you can do. Reading is training, watching videos is training, what you're doing right now is training. Okay, so these are things that elite level performers do. They spend about 20% of their time on a daily basis training. And so just to put a number around this, that's really 4 or 5 hours, maybe a day, that they're actually involved in enhancing their performance. Keep that in mind because we're going to talk about what the normal person's ratio is with this. So now we move into the next area, and that's the competition side. Now, competition isn't necessarily where you're in a formal competition. It's where you're looking to win or lose. There's high pressure involved. There's high stress. A lot of times you have arousal levels that are higher. For elite level performers, their competition side is usually only about 1 to 2% of their entire schedule. And then the third one is recovery. Now, if you just look at the percentages that we're talking about here, we're talking about roughly around 20% between the training piece and the competition piece. That leaves 80% of recovery. The recovery can be active or passive recovery. So active recovery are things like getting massage, walking, those types of things. Passive recovery are things like sleep, which is incredibly important. Recovery is necessary to get the body's state and the mind back where it needs to be. So, for example, if you weight train and you do an adequate job, you're going to create micro tears in the muscles. That's part of the process to actually rebuild stronger the muscles. You need time to recover for that because if you don't recover, you're just going to create more and more micro tears without it being recovered. But there's also mental recovery from fatigue, mental fatigue. There's also recovery where you're flushing some of the toxins out of the body. Sleep is incredibly important for that. We're going to talk about all these in future videos and details, but I just want to give you this idea. So the ratio that we're talking about, 20% training, 1 to 2% competition, and 80% roughly in recovery. But let's look at what happens for most of the rest of us in a normal situation. Training, people very rarely train, especially once they're in a job that they've been in for quite a while. They just do the same thing over and over again. And that's part of the reason why it's not particularly invigorating to be in that job, okay? Because part of what is important to us is this growth and learning and so forth. So most people, instead of a 20% ratio, is way down as far as the training is concerned. So one of the people I mentioned before was Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett reads up to 6 hours a day. That's part of his training. So he's training a lot every single day. Okay, so most people training much less. Competition, it actually goes the other direction. So you may think about, well, I'm not in competition, but you are, right? Most people have higher levels of stress, higher levels of anxiety, higher levels of arousal on a day-to-day basis at their work and sometimes at home. So for example, I want to look good in front of my boss. I've got time demands. I've got all these things that I've got to do, and I'm just feeling pressure. That is your body feeling competition. Okay, high levels of stress, high levels of arousal. The hormones that are related to competition are also related to these types of high levels. So now that's gone way up. And then recovery, Most of us don't engineer recovery the way elite performers engineer recovery. They take it seriously. They take their sleep seriously, they take their hydration seriously, they take their diet seriously. All of these types of things, they take those things seriously. For a lot of us, recovery may be a couple of beers and a Netflix movie, okay? That's not really recovery. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's not an engineered recovery cycle. Okay, so one of the really important things that we're talking about here is that if we can move towards the elite level ratios, we're going to move and increase our ability to perform, and also our happiness, our health, our longevity, all of these things that we're looking to improve. Okay, so I'm going to leave you with one thing about this, and again, we'll have lots and lots of videos that talk about this in detail, but the one thing is a time audit. Okay, you look at those buckets: train, compete, recover. And what are the time ratios that you have in there across a week? Just take an audit. Jot down if you think you're in recovery, if you think that you're in training. You know, and training and recovery should be super obvious because you should know when you're in it. If you're actually actively trying to improve your skills, you're training. And then see what your ratios are. And that's going to give you really great insight when you go to the next videos and we start talking about how you can change those ratios and how you can optimize within those ratios. So I hope that this was helpful for you. As always, very grateful for your time and attention. Good luck with everything.